Greetings, everyone. It's your host, Reed, and you're watching MOI. And I've been gone for a little while. Yes, I know. But I really appreciate you guys hanging around, sticking around while I hadn't put a video up for a little while. And I've got a story to tell all about that and how I got my ever-living ass kicked by this. A 13mm gear wrench. But it laid me out, man. It took one good punch at me and I was gone. Completely out of it. But before we get to the story, I actually want to shout out someone. Keep doing that where I'm talking about other people to go check out. And this one, his guy is named Fallen Sky Prepper. You see him in the comments. The guy's got one heck of a good sense of humor. I can just imagine him being the guy that tells all the horrific puns all day long at the dinner table. And eventually someone says, "Okay, enough." My kind of guy. People who know me know I'm kind of a fan of the puns too. But he's also got other sorts of humor and stuff. But check out his channel. I like his channel. He had a nice video up on his gardens like that. I'll put a link up to the video and go to get the channel from there. And I'd say definitely worth looking at. You know, I'm not really that big either, but if I can help him get a couple subs, I consider that a win. So do please go over there and check it out. Now, let me tell you about me. What the heck happened? Well, a while back, I was putting down some more concrete. And basically when I say putting down concrete, I mean mixing, 14, 15 bags of the 80-pound bags of Quikrete and pouring it down. I put in some concrete, sidewalk in, some little structures and all that piecewise. And yes, I know, if I frame the whole thing up, get it out, I could have a whole crew come out here and do it. Yeah, that's not happening. My life is so hectic, I do things in little chunks. So even though it's more expensive, yes, I am pouring things one at a time in little chunks that I can manage in the time that I have. It's just how my life is sometimes, okay? Leave me alone, darn it. Anyways, so I did all that work and stuff like that. Now, it'd been about a week, and, I was pretty worn out and sore, because it's not like, you're going to be mixing all that concrete, pouring it and stuff like that every day. So I'd used muscles I hadn't used in a while. Muscles in the back of my butt were sore. Just how it goes. Well, my neighbors came over and they saw me, watering out, so like that. And they're like, "Hey, do you know anything about air conditioning systems on cars?" Interesting question. Yes, I do. Because, I worked as an automotive technician and I got AC certified. In fact, I went ahead and got it done to even get the license so I can work on, HVAC in houses and stuff like that, So I got EPA Section 609 and EPA Section 608. There you go. So I went through that mess and stuff like that. And actually, it's been really helpful. I've done all sorts of stuff like that. And I've really enjoyed the trade. It's actually quite nice. And air conditioning systems are really interesting to me. And we're going to be doing some interesting stuff with refrigeration systems later. But back to the story. So we go look at the car, check it out, and, the compressor was turning on and cycling. But, there was no cooling at all. You could grab the low side, and it was still hot. So I got my gauges, put it on there, check it out. Well, there was no differential. The high and the cold, high and the low were at the same pressure. Absolutely nothing. So I'm looking at the car, I'm going so like that, and there's a couple signs of what this could possibly be here. And one is what we used to call the Black Death, meaning that the rings that the compressor uses on its pistons like that have just come apart and they flooded the system with like this burnt oil. This burnt stuff is horrible. It's just coated of black all the way through the system. Just nasty. And when you saw that, that was basically like, okay, well, it's replaced the compressor, it's replaced the evaporator, it's replaced the condenser, replaced the orifice. It's bad. Really bad. And it's like that. Now, the other thing it could possibly have is the expansion valve was stuck. And this one didn't have a fixed orifice tube with an accumulator. Don't worry about the technicalities of that. Other people out there that work on this will know what I'm talking about. But it's the piece on this one was a variable flow, meaning it sort of matches the heat demand or cooling demand to the environment so it can sort of match up and the compressor's not constantly cycling. It's a pretty nice design. And so it kind of gets bigger or smaller to measure the opening. Well, if the thing was stuck wide open, that would explain what's going on here, why it's not dropping down the low side pressure and getting the high side pressure. It was possible. And there was an opening up top on the car. And I said, well, let's open this up here. We'll get the refrigerant out, open this up, and we're going to check for the Black Death. If we don't see that, we're going to check for a leak. Well, I open it up and stuff, and I don't see any sign of the Black Death. The tubes were nice and shiny. Everything looked good. I'm like, okay, good. Well, and not much refrigerant came out, but it's a small car. We're not talking big SUVs or something like that. We're talking just, Ford Fiesta style car. Small car. So it doesn't have a ton of refrigerant anyways. But there could be a possible leak. One of the other problems that often happens with air conditioning systems is when you're driving on the road, little tiny rocks or something like that can hit the condenser and make these micro leaks. And over time, well, all the refrigerant goes out. People charge their car up and it works for a while. And it just keeps going out and out. So you actually, unlike the old cars that used R12 and the rubber hoses were actually semi-permeable to R12 and it would slowly leak out over time. Now cars built for R134A, they use a rubber hose that has what's called a barrier hose in it. There's actually a barrier in it. It's like Teflon or some other rubbers in there that have a molecular structure that's so tight the refrigerant molecules can't evaporate or permeate the barrier and get through it. That's why it's called barrier hose. And those systems, R134A, all the new stuff, everything today should not ever leak. Okay? If it's gotten low, you got to leak. That's how it works today. Anyways, so I was thinking it could be that. So I got, well, the first thing I need to do is get the thing hooked back up. We'll put in some dye and then we'll put some refrigerant in, we'll run it and see if we got a leak somewhere and I can spot that and test it out. Or then it's got to be the extension valve. So I put the thing up, put it on there, put the nut, which is a 13 millimeter nut, go zit, zit, ah! And at that point, I dropped to the floor, and in this case, it was the ground of the concrete out there, and screamed, holy heck. Unbelievable pain was radiating down my back and hips. I mean, it was bad. Unbelievably bad. And me putting this bolt back on, it was just when I went to put a little torque to snug it, I was standing straight up. I had just my left hand over there, and I went, just kind of tightened it up, right? And that's what knocked me out. I was gone. I was down. So I'm yelling at Lee, get me medicine, get me supplies, I need stuff. So I immediately got on the medical stuff and said, okay, let's get the ibuprofen jabbed in, all right? Now, next, okay, muscle relaxants, Flexeril, I have a supply of that. Good, let's do that. Okay, so I'm laying there and it's been like 30 something minutes. I couldn't roll over, I couldn't sit up, I couldn't bend at all. I had to be flat and straight. It was unbelievably painful. Now, after about 30 minutes or something like that, the pain relievers and the muscle relaxant actually made enough progress that I could sort of get myself up into like a kneeling position, kind of. And so I'm like, okay, let's see if I can stand up. Well, I got up and I had Lee run back and get me a set of crutches because I have crutches around. But I could not operate the crutches, operate myself, and have any movement in the back at all without excruciating mad pain. I'm talking horrific pain. And I ended back down on the ground several times. And I ended up resorting to crawling to my house, crawling up the stairs, crawling in, getting in, and laying down. And it took me, I don't know, I think probably a good 45 minutes to crawl my butt just from my neighbor back to my house. And we're just, right next to each other on this area. I mean, that was it. Just, oh my gosh. It was bad. And I really wish, it occurred to me, I was like, I really wish we had a wheelchair or a knee scooter. And then I also was thinking we need to retrofit like, those big things that, big like garden carts, 4-wheel things. Yeah. Gonna rent one of those, like person hauling sort of thing. And get one of those like big stiff boards like the EMTs and stuff like that have. Because it occurs to me, if this was SHTF, there's no way I was going to be moving very easily. I mean, I'd probably resorted to having Lee run back, get me a 2x4 and a big roll of duct tape. And I'd like duct tape the 2x4 to my torso and part of my leg so I could like support myself somehow in some jerry-rig fashion to get up and move. Because if I had to evacuate, I was in a serious problem. Because if I was, from all the work of doing the concrete, I'd felt, some twinges like that, but for some reason, just this motion with my arm tightening that bolt just took me out, right? Well, if I was hauling boxes like that, throwing them in the cars, getting stuff ready to evacuate because I've got a fire coming, or a train derailment and there's toxic chemicals and we got to get going. Oh boy, we got a problem. I would have found some way to do it, but it would have been nightmarishly painful. Bad times, right? Well, I'm inside for a while thinking, oh man, it's got to get better. All right. And after about an hour, I was like, forget it. We're going to the ER. Get in, drive over there, get in the ER. And one thing I love about a rural area, after a bit of a drive, you get to the ER and they're like, need help? Yep. All right, come in. We'll get you right to this bed. Lovely having a hospital in a rural area. The wait, minimalistic. One lovely thing. And in fact, in a lot of rural areas, you can actually see the government work correctly. Hospitals work correctly. But that's a rant for another time. Anyways, so get in the hospitals like that. And they're checking and stuff like that, asking these questions, feeling the leg and all that. And, they're trying to figure out basically, have I slipped a disc, herniated a disc, something like that, done other things, and so on. Now, because we're dealing with a lot of soft tissues, other things like that, MRI, that's what you'd need to do to image it. Well, the MRI truck and that stuff wasn't there. I don't know if you guys ever seen that, these rural areas where they don't have station for MRIs, mammograms, and all that. They have them on these 18-wheelers and they'll come in on days and say, oh, hey, imaging is available, so you don't have to go drive, an hour or two to go see a place that has that kind of imaging equipment. Only thing is they're not there, the whole time. And an x-ray isn't really going to do much because we're talking soft tissues for sure on this. It was pretty obvious. But the whole leg, it wasn't down all the way toes and like that. And I'm thinking, not really a disc. Usually, it turns out when you have disc problems, stuff like that go on, it goes the whole leg down, stuff like that, because you're dealing with areas around the spinal cord. But because mine wasn't, probably not. So they're talking about getting some drugs and stuff like that for me. And one of the things said, hey, let's give you fentanyl. Nope. I will deal with the pain. I am not going down some of those kind of roads, particularly on some of those that carry a very high risk of accidental overdose. I mean, people get the dosage wrong a little bit. You could end up dead. So there's a lot of class of drugs and stuff like that I'm aware of. I'm like, I'm not taking the risk. Someone might paying attention and I end up dead. No. So I said, hey, give me a thing of Toradol. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that stuff. It is actually an injectable form of an NSAID. And it's basically real similar to ibuprofen. Real helpful stuff. I've had it before when I've had other surgery done. The stuff works really well for me. Especially when given intravenously. I mean, it kicks in fast. And you're basically dealing just with, NSAIDs and ibuprofen in that case. And aside from some other risk of, overloading the liver and some other things, they have a lot less downsides. So I'm like, give me that. You sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Give me Toradol. So they go get it, give me a shot. And within about 45 minutes, I could actually walk on my own to go to the restroom. Whew, progress. It was more of a very slow shuffle, though, let me tell you. But because of lack of imaging, they're like, okay, come in later on Monday or Tuesday, get some stuff done, and see what's going on. So, got Lee to get me a back brace, got it all strapped on, got home, all this other stuff. And I basically spent the time until, Tuesday when I could get it in, just laid there. I did not sit up much. I laid flat, straight is what I wanted. It was very painful to be in any position other than flat. And once I got in on Tuesdays like that and they looked everything up and checked everything out, turns out I dislocated a joint in the back of my back. It's a joint called the sacroiliac. I'll write it down here. I'll show a picture of it on the screen. You can take a look at there. It's like that. And I'm one of the worst people around to figure out how to pronounce new words like that from a learning disability. I'll tell you that story some other time. But this joint on the lower left of my back and hips that kind of fits in together like these knuckles, well, I dislocated it. Apparently, it had been partially pulled apart from all the concrete work, but the muscles and the tissues were kind of holding things mostly in place and it was kind of healing. Apparently, when I went to torque that nut up, that motion with the pressures of my muscles and all that just twisted me enough to just pull everything out of alignment, unpop it, and that took me out. Completely took me out. So now I got a bunch of physical therapy to look forward to. And yes, I am doing a lot better. Now, I just have to be really careful, wear a back brace and all that. And it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks to fully heal. Certain positions are uncomfortable, but I am getting a lot better. Thankfully, no surgery involved, stuff like that. And just simple painkillers are taking care of any excess pain. But I don't use a ton of those kind of things. I keep it kind of minimum sort of thing. But that's why I've been kind of slow on getting everything done is I was in a lot of pain recently. But I learned a lot. I need to increase medical preps, have other things, and especially mobility. I mean, I've got painkillers, I've got all sorts of, I got quite a fair amount of medical supplies. I should go through like kind of oddball stuff I've gathered up through the years and have put away. But what I found I was severely lacking, mobility equipment, or equipment to enable people to move a person very easily and safely, quickly. Definitely moving up on my prep list, getting that sorted out. Well, I hope this was a little entertaining or educational, or you're just laughing going, ha ha, you're in pain, Reed, ha ha. Or like Nelson, right? But I bet most people out here, because most people on the channel are quite nice people I've been enjoying talking with so much. I'm certain some out there will have some sympathies. But don't worry. I'll be keeping up with all sorts of stuff coming now that I can actually sit for a period of time to edit the videos. It's actually going to allow me to finish up a bunch of others I've already got filmed. They just need voiceovers. They need work and so on and so forth. And I got all sorts of oddball stuff coming. And I hope we don't have any more back injuries in the way. Take care, everyone. This is Reed, out for now. You want to come up, buddy? Oh. Well, everyone, Asher decided to come up and say hi and nibble on me. He wanted attention. He's my friend that you heard the giant story on of me trying to get rescued from the shelter. Took a bit of work, but he's now happy. He's here. He's a good kitty cat. I like having him around. He's a good friend. Right, buddy? Right? He's chewing on me again. He likes to nibble sometimes. I don't know why they do that sometimes.